Welcome to GuideMia. Today we're going to talk about approving or rejecting a design. This is for clinicians whose case has just reached awaiting approval. The lab or the AlignerBot has produced something, and now it's your turn to decide. By the end, you'll know which approval gates your case will walk through. 2 cycles for ortho, AlignerBot, and implant cases, 1 for lab services, what the green approve button, request changes, and escalate to lab manager each actually do, why AlignerBot rejections require a structured file rather than a comment, and when to escalate versus reject. A typical review takes 5 to 10 minutes. Budget longer for an AlignerBot Phase 1 plan you want to dry run. Follow along on screen, or listen now and read the written guide later. Awaiting approval is the one status where the case is entirely in your hands. Nothing moves until you act. You have exactly 3 choices, and this whole lecture is about choosing between them well. The green approve button, request changes, and escalate to lab manager. 2 ground rules before we start. First, the approval page is gated on the status. If the case is in any other status, opening the approval page just redirects you back to the case detail. Second, only the case owner, the person who submitted the case, can decide. Colleagues who receive the case through a share have read-only access. They can view everything, but the buttons aren't theirs to press. The prerequisites are short, with one that only applies sometimes. You need a case sitting at awaiting approval, and you need to be its owner. The conditional one. If this is an AlignerBot or clear alignered AI case and you intend to reject the work, you'll need a structured artifact, either an XML tooth position file exported from Cympha Studio or a transfer pack saved from GuideMia Ortho Plus Planner. Free text instructions cannot be applied to the AlignerBot planner, and we'll see exactly why in step 4. But, and this matters, that requirement applies only to request changes. If you don't have the tooling installed, you can still approve and you can still escalate without any of it. Getting there is easy because Cympha comes to you. When the lab requests approval, you get an email with a link to the case detail page. From there, click Review and Approve in the header, and you're on the approval page. You can also reach it from your dashboard. Click into any case showing awaiting approval. The page gives you everything for the decision in one place. A backlink, the patient name, the status badge, and the label telling you which approval step this is, a link to download the lab slip as a PDF with the clinical brief, and the full file list, where View on any row opens the case detail in a new tab for previews. The 3 action buttons sit in the bottom right of the approval card. Escalate to Lab Manager, request changes in rows red, and the green primary button that carries the approve label. Before you press anything, know which gate you're standing at, because the same page serves different moments. Ortho, AlignerBot, and implant cases pass through 2 approval cycles, so you'll visit this page twice. The first is the treatment plan. The lab or the AlignerBot has produced the plan itself. Staged tooth movements for an aligner case, the plan setup for an ortho case, the surgical plan for an implant case. You're reviewing the plan, staging IPR, attachments, positions. Approving it sends the case back to designing for the appliance cycle, typically with the same designer. The second is the appliance design. The geometry is finished. You're reviewing the deliverable set, and approving here completes the case. Lab service cases have just 1 cycle, label design. The button label always tells you where you are. Approve plan on the first cycle, approve appliance on the second, approve design for a lab service. A word on the review itself, especially for that first gate. The treatment plan is where the clinical decisions live, how far each tooth travels, where the IPR lands, where attachments go. This is the cheapest possible moment to catch a disagreement. 1 click sends it back with your corrections, and nothing downstream has been built yet. Catch the same issue after the appliance is designed, and you've spent a full design cycle. So take the 5 or 10 minutes seriously, and for an AlignerBot Phase 1 plan, consider dry running the staging before you decide. The buttons will still be there when you're sure. If the work is right, click the green button. There is no extra confirmation dialog on approval. The green color and the explicit label are the confirmation, and while the request is in flight, the button reads approving. Now, the key mental model. Approved is a pivot, not a resting state. What happens next depends on where you are. If an approval cycle remains, you just approved the treatment plan on an ortho, AlignerBot, or implant case. The case goes back to designing for the appliance cycle. For AlignerBot, the agent picks up Phase 2 shortly, and another approval email will find you when it's done. If that was the final cycle on a digital case, the case advances straight to delivered. There is no manufacturing step for digital deliverables. And if it's a physical lab service case, the case stops at approved and waits for the lab to move it into and manufacturing on its own schedule, then on through shipping to delivered. Request changes is the normal back to designer path. Use it when the work needs another round with the same designer or the same AlignerBot agent. Clicking it opens a confirmation dialog titled, Request Changes to this deliverable. For an ortho, implant, or lab service case, that dialog reads, the case goes back to the designer who built it, and you can describe the changes you want in the case chat. Click the Request Changes Confirm button, and the case status flips to Changes Requested, with the same designer still assigned. Then, and please don't skip this part, type the actual change request into the case chat, so the designer has the pros context. The button by itself tells them a deliverable came back. It tells them nothing about what you want different. The chat is where the clinical instruction lives. For an AlignerBot or Clear Aligner AI case, that same dialog is stricter, and it's worth understanding why. If no XML or GPK file is already attached to the case, the Request Changes Confirm button is disabled, and an amber notice appears headed, Upload one of the following first. It lists exactly two things: an XML tooth position file exported from Cympha Studio's 3D Review, or a GOS GPK transfer pack saved from GuideMia Ortho Plus Planner. A Get the Planner link to the Downloads page appears in the dialog too. And the Confirm button stays disabled until you cancel out of the dialog, upload the artifact over on the case detail page, and come back here. Now the reason for the guard. The AlignerBot planner has no English parser. A comment that says Move Tooth 8 Buccally is simply not actionable to it. So you either hand it an updated XML, typically by restaging the case in Cympha Studio's 3D Review and exporting the tooth position file, or a replacement transfer pack, typically by opening the case in Ortho Plus Planner, editing it there, and saving the pack. Once the artifact is attached and you confirm, the agent redispatches phase 1 with your new artifact as the overlay. The third button is the exception path. Escalate to Lab Manager is for problems the designer can't fix on their own, quality concerns that suggest the wrong protocol was followed, schedule problems, or the wrong patient files entirely. A confirm dialog asks whether to escalate this case to the Lab Manager and explains the consequence. The manager will review the case directly. Confirm, and the case flips to escalated. The Lab Manager triages it from their queue and decides whether to reassign it, take it themselves, or contact you. Here's the sentence to remember. Escalation is not a stronger form of rejection, it's a different routing decision. If the designer's work is fine, and you just want one more iteration, that's Request Changes. Reserve escalation for when you genuinely want a senior eye on the case. A quick map of the aftermath, whichever button you pressed. After Approve, the pivot rules from Step 3 take over. Back to designing if a cycle remains, straight to delivered on the final cycle of a digital case, or resting at approved on a lab service case until manufacturing starts. After Request Changes, a success toast confirms the case is back with the designer who built the deliverable. Put your pros context in the chat, and know that the activity log records the rejection event, so the history is permanent. After Escalate, a success toast confirms it, and the Lab Manager picks the case up from their queue. In every branch, your dashboard row updates to match, so you can watch the consequence of your click from the same place you started. For frictions for fixes, the approval page keeps redirecting you to the case detail. Either the case is no longer at awaiting approval, someone else approved it, or it got moved, or you're not the case owner. The badge on your dashboard row tells you the current status. Clicked Request Changes by mistake? You can reapprove later. When the designer resubmits, the case returns to awaiting approval and the approval page comes back, but there's no undo on the immediate rejection event itself. The Approve button grayed out. Either an approval, rejection, or escalation request is mid-flight. Look for the spinner, or a network hiccup interrupted a previous click. Refresh, and the status shows the true state. And the AlignerBot case is demanding an XML you don't know how to produce? Open the case in Cympha Studio, switch to the 3D Review, adjust the staging, export the tooth position file, upload it on the case detail page, then come back and try Request Changes again. So, know your gate, review like it's the cheapest moment to catch a problem because it is, and then pick the right lever. Approve when it's right. Request Changes when the same hands should take another pass, with a structured file, if it's an AlignerBot case. Escalate only when the case needs a senior eye. And if the reason you can't approve is that the case was merely shared with you, there's a companion lecture on exactly what a case share recipient can and can't do. The full write-up, with every dialog title and button state, is waiting at cympha.com. Open the docs section and find Approve or Reject a Design. This series walks through every Cympha workflow, one lecture at a time, and subscribing is the easiest way to catch the rest. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.